The Dallas Stars have changed head coaches despite their recent regular season success. Joey Erickson of Locked On Stars is here to talk about that and how long their window is for Stanley Cup contention. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday episode of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Stars, Joey Erickson. And Joey, it hasn't been a dull off season in Dallas. A new coach. Were you surprised by the head coaching change, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I think everybody was a bit in shock to some degree. Maybe not after what transpired at the end of the Western Conference Final with Pete DeBoer sort of throwing Jake Oettinger under the bus for what transpired during that series. But the Stars got rid of a guy with the second best win percentage in franchise history. There's a bit of a risk if you're Jim Nill to get rid of a coach that has had so much success over the last 3 seasons in Dallas, whether or not they got to a Stanley Cup or not. But I'm pretty bullish on Glen Gulutzan. I think it'll be really interesting, and he made it pretty clear it's going to be a collaborative process. The Stars were also able to promote their AHL head coach, Neil Graham, to be an assistant, which will be a great experience for him. So the Stars are able to hold on to him as well. He was a candidate that I think a lot of Stars fans were hoping may get the gig, but they end up reuniting with Glen Gulutzan, and he made it very clear it's going to be a collaborative process with Neil Graham, defensive head coach Alain Nasreddine, and that's going to be a bit of a change from Pete DeBoer, whereas, Pete DeBoer had systems and he had assistant coaches, but his assistants sort of ran it the way he wanted in a lot of ways. And it seems like this is going to be a collaborative process. And he mentioned that he wants to tailor the system to the personnel of the Dallas Stars. So it's going to be really, really intriguing, especially the first 20 games or so, about how the Stars can adapt to this new style, new philosophy. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel either, right? The Stars are a pretty good team. They've won a lot of games recently. It's about trying to get over that hump.
So what do you expect to be different on the ice based on, the talent? If he's going to tailor his system to the talent, what do you expect that system to look like?
Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated to see what the Stars sort of employ defensively, just because the Stars went through some changes in the middle of the year last year as well, where they went to a really heavy man-to-man style, and with the Stars personnel, especially on the back end, just guys that weren't particularly mobile. It seemed to give them a lot of fits. Now they did make some subtractions this offseason with Matt Dumba, and Niels Lundqvist is a smaller guy but more mobile that may get some more playing time under Glen Gulutzan, because I don't know if Pete DeBoer was the biggest fan, but I think offensively it's going to stay somewhat the same in a lot of ways. Like Dallas was a heavy puck possession team. They were really good off the rush, and I'm sure Glen Gulutzan wants to keep that innate, almost keep that identity of Dallas, but just tweak some stuff. And he did mention, which raised a lot of eyebrows, and I think it's something you want all coaches to say nowadays. Like, they want to turn up the physicality a bit. But he mentioned doing that as the season kind of wears along. If it's one criticism a lot of people have had about the Stars fans in particular, just when it gets to the nitty gritty of that Western Conference Final, they just don't seem tough enough. And sometimes it's a trigger word in today's NHL. You got to be tough. Everybody wants a Sam Bennett. And the Stars just really struggled to play that tough, grinded out nose hockey. And Glen Gulutzan mentioned throughout the regular season in his introductory press conference, he just wants to turn it up a bit here and there, just so they're more prepared when they get to that point, when they get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So maybe there's going to be a change in philosophy, especially on the forecheck. He said he's going to change up the forecheck, and we'll see how that all transpires. But I don't have to have the solutions for that, thankfully. I just get to talk about it, Gil.
do they have the personnel to be more physical?
See, that's a phenomenal question. I don't think so. But I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing either, right? It's always trying to marry the two together, right? The skill and the physical toughness. Like you look at the bottom six, like the Stars have a lot of similar archetypes. Sam Steele, kind of around 6 foot, not overly huge. Maverick Bork's another smaller guy. They went out and got Radek Faksa, who was with the Stars for a decade. He was their fourth line center. Plays a decent physically game. It's not like they're going to run around and just bully teams. The Stars just aren't going to be able to do that. That's not going to be their personnel. But I think they can make a more concerted effort, right? I think it's that conscious effort of finishing checks and being a bit tougher to play against. So we'll see how that all fits. But like the Stars have a ton of offensive talent. They should be able to score, and they're going to get a full 82 of Mikko Rantanen, which should be rather fun as well.
No doubt about that. You've got Mikko Rantanen, you've got Jake Ottinger. You mentioned the offensive talent. How big of a window does this team have as a Stanley Cup contender? Because they've been that way for a few years now.
Yeah, you mentioned the core guys, right? The Stars have a great core to build around, and now it's about trying to find those pieces. And they've been close, right, over the last few seasons. I was thinking about this the other week. They're sort of turning into the San Jose Sharks a bit. If you recall from, sort of the middle of the 2000s, like they were always in the hunt. They did get to the Cup final that one year, but failed, and sort of similar with the Stars in 2020, although that team was a bit of a fluke to get there. Antti Hudobin was pretty dang good, and he just retired recently. But anyways, I digress from that. I think the window is open, I think, clearly for the next 4 or 5 years, just because you do have Wyatt Johnston under contract. You do have Mikko Rantanen now for 8 years, Rope for another 8 years. Like those are some talent. Those are some premier talent you're going to have around. As long as you got those guys around, you're going to be good. And don't forget Miro Heiskanen as well, the Stars' best defenseman. And hopefully, if they don't have any more contract disputes for next season, like Jason Robertson, Thomas Harley could be around for a long time as well. And we all know the great improvements he made last season. So the core is there. Now can they build around it? And they're going to have to ask some guys to play in elevated roles. Like can those guys produce to get over that hump? At the end of the day, I think the Stars and all teams are looking for that depth to be productive and probably some moves at the trade deadline as well.
I mentioned Jake Ottinger before. Mm-hmm. The way that, Peter DeBoer and he sort of had that conflict at the end of the playoffs. Is he the goalie who can get you to the Cup final to win a Cup?
Yeah, I truly believe that. I know there's a lot of critics out there, and I think that's fair. But you could say that about a lot of goaltenders. You could look at Igor Shesterkin. You could look at Connor Hellebuck, who the Stars knocked out.
Yep.
He's a world beater for years, and he doesn't look the same in the postseason. I mean, Jake Ottinger, frankly, has looked better in the Stanley Cup playoffs than Connor Hellebuck ever has, but he's not going to get rid of the stigma until he does it. In a lot of ways, they were just astronomical expectations after what he did in that series years ago against Calgary. In a series he didn't even win, but he played so damn well that everybody's expecting that consistently, and that's just not a realistic goal. And I've always made the comparison to Jake Ottinger to a Dallas Cowboy quarterback in Dak Prescott. I think there's a lot of similarities there. He's just not going to get any respect until he does it. Although Jake Ottinger, if you just look at accomplishments, has accomplished more than Dak Prescott in their respective sports. A lot different, of course, but he's not going to be known as someone that can get it done until he does, and that's hard. But I truly believe he is. I think you look at rankings. I know you don't have to take those into consideration a lot, but you look from NHL player surveys and stuff, like he ranks somewhere within, 6 to 12, like more like 6 to 10. It's pretty good. Everybody's looking for a number one goaltender. Those are hard to find. The Stars have him. And it seems like he's just not good enough. I'd rather have that than, Anton Hudobin, or you're trying to find a goaltender. There's teams like have been going on 15 years still looking for their guy. And hopefully he'll get the job done.
All right, Joey, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can follow me at JoeyTheJet19 on Twitter and all that good stuff. And then follow the show at Locked On Stars. And of course, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast and YouTube as well. Thanks for having me on, Gil. Always a pleasure. And hockey's right around the corner.
Can't wait. Thanks, Joey. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You could track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And I know that if you're trying to keep an account with your wife, your husband, your significant other, it makes it so much easier to have all this information in one place with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.